Since I haven't put anything out for about a month, I decided I would take penance by forcing myself to play a little bit of Fallout 76 and see how it is in 2020. It's not horrible, and I feel like that's due to a lot of the changes that have been made since its original release. Granted, I bought it on its original release, realized it was a piece of shit, and was one of the lucky ones to return it. Now, I was surprised a few months ago to see it pop up in my Steam library for no reason, and I spent no money on it, so I figured, hey, why not play it now? The best way I could possibly describe this game is as a slightly shittier version of Fallout 4. And I actually kind of like Fallout 4 in certain aspects, but if you don't like Fallout 4, you're not really gonna like this. And if you hate Fallout 4, then you're gonna fucking despise this. And if you're expecting any sort of grand multiplayer experience from this, as you pretty much know, you're not going to be getting it from this. That being said, this is a much more watered down version of Fallout than Fallout has already been. And if you know how Fallout 4 was, then you know exactly how this game is. It's essentially a copy and paste of Fallout 4's mechanics, of its building stuff, and of essentially any sort of mechanical gameplay element that you can think of. It's all the exact same. So, without really going into how much, similar it is, and essentially anything that I can say about it mechanically or gameplay-wise has already been said a million times, I feel like the best way to sort of describe this game would be explaining my experience with the first 5 hours that I played it. If you've ever played Rust, and you know how Rust is, take away 90% of the toxicity, actually I'd say 99% of the toxicity that is Rust, and then just kind of have only the friendly, helpful people, which sounds nice on the surface, but it can be kind of bad. It makes the game kind of dull. For the first 2 or so hours I was playing the game, I'd come across people only to witness them phase out of existence. The first person I witnessed was in sort of the tutorial area. They were teaching you how to craft weapons and stuff, and after trying to initiate communication with him, he promptly phased out of existence. The second person I encountered was coming out of one of the mines in the area, and I saw him, and after trying to establish communications with him, he gave me a thumbs up, then proceeded to free himself from this mortal plane. Now, the third person I met after the 2-hour span was essentially, it was just a dude who had a pretty big base near me. Now, I would have expected 2 years into the game's lifespan, the start would be a little bit different, but it was relatively the same. Now, you start off in Vault 76 and wake up as if it's the very first day, whenever I remember there being hordes upon hordes of people in there. It's not the case nowadays, obviously. You make your character, you get your pet boy, you get a little brief kind of tutorial on, like, you need stim packs for health, Rad-X for rads and whatnot. And they make it very apparent with NPCs that NPCs are in the game now, with all of the Mr. Handies that are around inside of the vault, and then 2 scavvers who are right outside of the vault trying to get in for some kind of quote-unquote treasure. Now, I never really got past that in the 5 hours because I was too busy dicking around, but still, they made it very apparent that there were NPCs, and they kind of even branched off the tutorial missions with, originally you would have to play holotapes that would tell you X, Y, and Z, and now there's a sort of a dive bar that you go to, and that's kind of where the tutorial picks up from there. Now, there are 2 separate quest lines for them, but they essentially function in the same way. One of them, or both of them, teach you how to build stuff, and the original tutorial kind of gives you more things to do in the sense of creating armor and weapons. Now, with weapons, they degrade extremely quickly, like very, very, very quickly, to the point where customizing your weapons is an exercise in futility. For instance, I found a rifle, a hunting rifle, right off the bat, and I was like, lit. I'm going to put a long barrel and a scope on this, and I'm going to use this to snipe enemies from afar. About an hour and a half in, it broke. And granted, I was using that as my sole weapon, and an hour and a half was pretty good time, but I started noticing all my weapons started breaking, and of course I thought, well, how can I repair these? The game doesn't tell you that you can repair them at the shop with some of the resources that you scavenged. No, 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 no. It takes you straight to the item store. And I went there, and remembering the clusterfuck that it once was, where it was essentially all pay to win, I was expecting to see a shit ton of pay to win stuff. But I will give them credit where credit is due. It is mainly cosmetic. And I say mainly cosmetic. There's a lot of stuff that you can buy for your base that makes resource scavenging a lot easier. For instance, having little protectotrons go out there and scavenge resources for you and whatnot. Also, having access to essentially shops in your base is a pay feature, so there's that. But overall, I will say it is very much cosmetic only. So getting back to the actual gameplay in the game itself, I was somewhat happy to see a few little, little funny memes that were here and there, like a giant death robot juggernaut thing that thinks it's a cow. That was kind of funny. It made me exhale through my nostrils sharply. I also saw what was essentially toilet soup, which was a toilet with a ladle and some other things in it, which also made me exhale through my nose sharply. So there's that. But the NPCs, the dialogue, it just kind of falls flat. Obviously there is no voice acting for the player character. Kind of returns to that old, New Vegas, Fallout 3 sort of style, where everything is voice acted by the NPCs, but not the player character, which I know some people like, some people don't like. I could either take it or leave it, I don't really care. But the NPCs voice acting and them themselves are not very good. They're very take it or leave it, and with a little bit of the latency, you get these very awkward pauses in between talking, where two characters are supposed to be talking to one another, and they'll wait like 5 seconds, and then the next character will say something. It'll be like, "Hey Jim, did you hear that?" And they'll be like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, man, I heard that. It's like everybody here has sort of like the mental capacity of like an ape. So yeah, there's that. Also, with picking up resources, I noticed at the beginning that there was a 2-second delay whenever I would try to activate a resource. For instance, picking up some flour, or picking up a weapon, or looting something. There would always be a sort of a 2-second delay. And that did go away after a bit, but it's still pretty obvious that the servers themselves are pretty shaky, especially after about, the 5 hours the servers crashed. So, that was fun, and that really annoyed me. And that annoyed me because there was just an event where you could set up some extractors in a public area and you'd have to defend it. So I set up a shit ton of defenses and then got those extractors going, spending a ton of my resources on it, and then promptly after that, not even 20 minutes went by with those extractors on, the servers crashed, and I lost everything. I didn't get to get any of those resources, didn't get to get any of the stuff I put into it back. It was just kind of gone forever. And overall, because this is getting like long, like 11 minutes long, and I was expecting this to be 5 minutes long, but I'm rambling now. It's just it's just not good. It's not horrible, but it's not good either. It's just kind of meh. I mean, it's definitely something that you can do if you're bored and you have nothing else to play, but I mean, if that's the case, just play Fallout 4. If you're really trying to play a more modern Fallout, just play Fallout 4. It's just so surface level. There's not a lot going on, and it does start getting kind of grindy. And I mean, shit, just going from Fallout 4 to playing this, there's a serious drop off in quality, and even now, 2 years later, after they've done a shit ton to patch it, it's so obvious that it's just patches is what it is. I mean, you can only fix something that's so fucking broken, and they've been fixing it with duct tape and string, for all I can tell. The graphics look like dookie. I mean, it just looks bad. There's like weird lighting effects. I remember seeing like the smoke coming out of somebody's generator, and I thought it was some sort of fucking wraith. It's just not good. You can't tell what something is 90% of the time until you get right up close to it. Yeah, it's just not a good game. It's not a horrible game either, but I recommend spending 20 bucks on it? Fuck no. If you're gonna spend 20 bucks on something, just save it up and buy something else, honestly. Just don't waste your money on this game. If you already have it, and if for some reason Steam gave it to you for free, play it, see what you think about it, but overall, don't waste your money on it. Oh, and don't even get me fucking started on that Battle Royale bullshit.